Cuisinart presents Patently Easy Food Processor Cooking with your host, Greg Patton.
Hi, I'm Greg Patton, and welcome to my kitchen. Today we're going to be making an easy and delicious Oriental-style dinner, including a dim sum appetizer, fried brown rice, baked fish fillets with stir-fried vegetables, and a fresh pineapple sherbet in almond cookie cups. And we're going to be doing it all with a food processor, which makes food preparation so easy, I think you'll be amazed. For the pineapple sherbet, you will need a ripe pineapple weighing between 3 and 4 pounds. And the best way to tell if a pineapple is ripe is to pick it up and then sniff it. Put it really close to your nose and sniff it. And if it smells fruity and pineapple-y, then it's okay. If it smells fermented, then it's not okay, and you should reject it. There are some old wives' tales about telling if a pineapple is ripe by being able to tug it at one of the lower leaves, and if it comes out easily, then they say the pineapple is done. But really the best test is the nose test, so learn to use your nose when you are picking out food. Set the pineapple down on your work surface, and then with a sharp knife, cut the top off, then turn it around and cut the bottom off, and then stand the pineapple up, and with the knife, just take fairly thick slices off the fruit so that you're removing the eyes. And what you want to wind up with then is a pineapple that is pretty well clean. If you have some eyes like this, then don't worry about it. You can get rid of those later. Cut the pineapple in half, and then in crosswise in fourths, and then with your knife, just carefully remove the core, and then cut the pineapple now into chunks. We'll need 4 cups of pineapple chunks, and with the metal blade in place, pour the pineapple into your work bowl, and then add a ½ cup sugar, a tablespoon of lime juice, and start the machine going and let it process first just by pulsing a few times to start things going, and then process continuously now for 2 minutes until it's very smooth. Then after the pineapple is very smooth, scrape down the work bowl just to make sure that all the lumps are going to get mixed in. Add 1 large egg white, and then process again for another minute until the mixture is very frothy and white. And that's all there is to it. You'll see now that the mixture is really very frothy, and what you want to do is reach under with a finger to secure the blade in place, and then pour this mixture, which is almost like a whipped cream, into an 8 by 8 by 2 inch metal pan, and metal conducts the cold to the mixture a lot faster than does glass. Stick that in the freezer until it's frozen semi-firm, and then you cut it up into little squares or chunks about 1 inch or so in size. You should freeze it not until it becomes like one big ice cube, but rather just until it's sort of mushy but semi-firm, about 1.5 to 2 hours. Reprocess and then refreeze it. And then at that point, you can serve your sherbet, which is a nice, fairly soft consistency, and it'll be just absolutely delicious. The almond cookie cups are a breeze to make, and I think you'll have a lot of fun with them, especially since the food processor does such a wonderful job with making pastry. For this recipe, you'll need a ½ cup of flour, a ¼ cup of blanched almonds, a tablespoon of sugar, 4 tablespoons of refrigerator temperature butter cut into 4 pieces, and 1 egg yolk mixed with 1 teaspoon almond extract and 1½ teaspoons water. I want to show you how to measure the flour for this recipe, and the easiest way to do it is just to take a ½ cup dry measuring cup, scoop it right into your flour, and then just with a finger sweep off the excess. And that's really all there is to it. Then with a metal blade in place, dump your flour into the work bowl, add the almonds and the sugar, and then you'll want to process this mixture for 1 minute until the almonds are finely ground. Then scrape down the work bowl, making sure you get all of the flour and almond particles back down where they belong. Add the very cold butter, and it's important that the butter be cold. And then to start the cutting process, Turn the machine on and off rapidly 4 or 5 times, and then let it run continuously for 5 to 10 seconds only. Then take the egg yolk mixture, giving it a good mix with the fork, and turning the machine on and off rapidly, pour the mixture through the feed tube, and gradually you'll see that the dough looks like it's going to gather into a ball. Stop before it actually does gather into a ball, and then take some flour, sprinkle it on your work surface, and very carefully remove the dough from the work bowl. And I say carefully because that metal blade is very sharp. So if the dough is sticking at all to the sides, just use your plastic scraper to get it out. Then roll the dough around in the flour, form it sort of into a sausage shape, and then with the heel of your hand, just break the dough in 2 tablespoon bits. What you're doing is giving the dough a final blending of the fat with the flour, which is going to make this dough wonderfully flaky, and also it's going to be very easy to roll out. Just do this a couple of times. Then take a piece of plastic, wrap the dough up, let it chill for about an hour or so until it becomes just a bit firm. And then I have here another piece of dough that's already been chilled for about 30 minutes. Roll it around lightly in flour, and then with a rolling pin, just roll this out to a rectangle. And if the dough is going to give you any problems at all, just flour it very lightly. Roll it out into a rectangle measuring about 14 by 10 inches. And then with a 4-inch cookie cutter or a very large custard cup, just cut 6 circles of dough from this pastry. And then to shape them, you take an inverted muffin tin, and all you do is take a circle of dough and just drape it right over the top like that. You don't fuss with it. Just use your fingers to sort of give it a fluted rim. You bake them in the center of a preheated 425-degree oven for about 5 to 7 minutes only, just until they are golden brown. And when they're done, they'll look like this. And to serve, you just simply put a scoop of sherbet into a cup, top with a slice of strawberry, and enjoy. Let's get on with the rest of the dinner. Here, steaming away, is the appetizer. These are steamed pork buns, otherwise known as dim sum in Chinese. And they smell absolutely wonderful. Dim sum really means tasty morsels, and if you're fortunate enough to live in a big city, there are dim sum parlors you can go to, and when you sit at your table, they wheel carts by, and you can pick and choose what you like, have a terrific selection of different sorts of appetizers, and you wind up basically having a meal of appetizers. These dim sum are made of pork, and for this recipe you'll need a ½ pound of lean boneless pork, very cold, cut into 1-inch pieces, a clove of garlic, a ½ teaspoon of sugar, a ½ teaspoon of salt, a tablespoon of dry sherry, 2 tablespoons of water, a tablespoon of hoisin sauce, a teaspoon of sesame oil, 1 scallion that you cut up into 1-inch lengths, and 1/4 cup of canned water chestnuts that you've rinsed and drained. Now, let me point out a couple of things, and that is that hoisin sauce is a sauce made of soybeans and sugar and spices and a couple of other things. It has a wonderful fruity kind of flavor, and it's delicious not only in this recipe but in other recipes as well, particularly for marinades and even salad dressings. And sesame oil, when you buy oriental sesame oil, you should be sure that you get the dark kind. This is made from roasted sesame seeds and has a really rich flavor as compared to the really pale kind that you can get very frequently. Fortunately for us now, all of these ingredients are widely available in most supermarkets. To make the recipe, with the metal blade in place, you just add everything to the work bowl at one time. It's important for the pork to be cold because it'll chop up more easily that way. So I'm adding the pork, the scallion, the garlic clove. I've mixed together my liquid ingredients and adding them all at one time, salt and sugar, and my water chestnuts. And that's it. You put the lid on, and you just turn the machine on and off rapidly, just like this, turning it on and off until you get a texture that is sort of medium finely chopped. What you want is for the water chestnuts to retain some texture and for the meat to be really chopped rather than pureed. And you can use this technique for wontons, for egg rolls, for meatloaves, for pâtés, for almost any procedure that calls for chopped meat. It looks like it's just about done. For the wrappers, we're going to be using a convenience product in a new way. And I wouldn't have believed it had somebody not shown this to me, and that is that these are refrigerated biscuits, and they make a wonderful dim sum wrapper. You just dip both sides of the biscuit in flour, flattening it to about a 3-inch circle. Take a fairly generous spoonful of your dim sum mixture. This will make about 10 dim sums this way, and this is very non-traditional. You just sort of spread it out as if you were making a pizza, except you don't stop there. You roll it up, and then once these are all shaped, you get them into your steamer, and you steam them just for about 10 minutes until they're done. A traditional way of making dim sum is to take a circle of dough, and you can certainly do this if you would rather. Take not quite so generous an amount of the filling, and then you just bring up the ends right over the top and just pinch them together gently. You can assemble these about 1 or 2 hours ahead of time and just let them sit until you're ready to steam them. And this way, this also makes a very delicious appetizer, very attractive. And when it's done, here's what it looks like, and you just cut it into thirds, and you see this lovely pattern here. To eat dim sum, use toothpicks to impale them, and then have a dipping sauce ready of 2 parts of red wine vinegar and 1 part soy sauce, and you just simply dip the dim sum into this mixture and gobble it down. And I wish you could be enjoying it with me now, because it is absolutely delicious. To serve, arrange them attractively on a platter with some watercress or parsley and the dipping sauce. The side dish for this menu is fried brown rice. I think you'll like fried brown rice, not only because it tastes good and has a wonderful texture, but it's also more nutritious than the white kind. For this dish, you'll need a beaten egg, 6 scallions that you've cut into 1-inch lengths, a 1/4 pound of fresh mushrooms, 3 cups of cold cooked brown rice, so you have to cook it ahead of time, a cup of thawed frozen peas, 2 tablespoons of dry sherry, 3 tablespoons of soy sauce, and freshly ground black pepper to taste. We'll begin by making the egg part of the dish first, and for that, you heat up a skillet, about a 10-inch skillet, with a 1/2 tablespoon of oil. Get it good and hot, and we're going to turn this egg into a little crepe. It's going to be sort of a garnish, but also add a bit of nourishment to this rice dish. Make sure the oil is good and hot. Pour in the egg. There's the nice sizzling sound I like to hear. And then you just swirl the pan back and forth, maybe using the fork to help you along, just to make sure that all of this egg gets cooked. Okay, so you see I'm not really scrambling this egg. I'm just tipping the pan so that the egg gets cooked, but only barely. Then take the pan off the fire and dump the crepe right down onto your counter. And then you just roll it up, just like a jelly roll. And with a very sharp knife, you cut this crepe into little shreds. I'm handling this a bit gingerly because the egg is very hot and I don't want to burn myself. And then once the egg crepe is all cut up, you just transfer it to a side dish, and we'll attend to it later. We'll just get this set aside, and with the metal blade in place, just dump the scallions into the work bowl. And you'll want to chop these just by turning the machine on and off, maybe 10 times or so, just until they're sort of coarsely chopped. And then carefully remove the metal blade and put in the medium slicing disc. And by that I mean the disc that will slice from 3 to 4 millimeters thick. And once that is in position, then we can attend to the mushrooms. You trim the mushrooms flat on both sides so that they'll cut easier with the processor. And then if the mushroom is dirty at all, take a mushroom brush or something soft to just brush away the dirt. Try not to put mushrooms in too much water because they tend to soak up too much of it. And here's how you slice the ends off, just very easily, like that. Save the ends. And then we'll load these mushrooms into the feed tube, flat side down. Get as many as you can in one layer, depending upon how large the feed tube of your processor is. And then once the mushrooms are all loaded in place, since the mushrooms are a soft vegetable, remember to use soft or light pressure. And here we go. There. You'll find that if you have really firm mushrooms, they'll slice beautifully in the food processor. Now, in the same skillet that you used for the egg crepe, heat 2 tablespoons of oil over medium-high heat. And then we're just going to dump all of this wonderful scallion mushroom mixture into the pan. And with 2 flat wooden spatulas, this is what I like to use best of all in stir-frying, you just toss these ingredients together. And you'll find that the mushrooms and the scallions will cook in just about a minute. The mushrooms will have a squeaky sound. They will start to give up a squeaky sound as they are losing their juices. And you're getting a wonderful aroma. You'll get a wonderful aroma from the scallion and mushroom combination. Then add the sherry, 2 tablespoons of dry sherry, and then just keep tossing for about a minute or so. Just keep tossing for about a minute or so until the sherry has evaporated. Be sure that you added those ends of the mushrooms that you trimmed off. And as you can see now, you see the sherry has all evaporated. Then you can add your cooked cold brown rice. This happens to be long grain, but you could use short grain if you prefer, and just toss it all around. Add 3 tablespoons of soy sauce, the cup of peas, and a generous grinding of black pepper. I'd recommend about 1/4 teaspoon or so. And you just keep tossing and mixing everything together until the rice is heated through. And then you're almost ready now to serve it. Then just get the egg that you prepared earlier, dump that into the skillet, and believe it or not, the rice dish is done. You can do this actually about 15 to 20 minutes ahead and turn it out into a serving dish, which is what I'm going to do right now. And then all you need to do to keep it warm is to cover it with aluminum foil and keep it in a low oven, meaning just on the warm setting, and then it could sit there and wait until the fish dish is ready. It takes only a few minutes to make the main course of baked fish fillets with stir-fried vegetables, and what a delicious and aromatic dish it is. You'll need 2 pounds of fish fillets to feed 6 people. You can use any kind you like. I happen to like either cod or scrod. To cook the fish, you can put it into a skillet or into an oven-proof serving dish that you have brushed with oil. And then you take some more oil and brush it over the fish fillets very lightly. And it doesn't matter if the fish fillets are crowded together. You are going to bake them at 500 degrees, very hot temperature, until they test done. And to see if they're done, what you do is just simply use a fingertip and then just press down on the fish fillet just very gently. And if it acts as though it springs back, then the fish is done. For the vegetable part of the dish, we'll need a 1-inch round slice, 1/4 inch thick of fresh ginger root that's peeled, 1 large peeled carrot cut into lengths to fit the feed tube, 2 medium-sized red bell peppers and 2 medium-sized green bell peppers, and a special sauce mixture. And to get things going with the metal blade in place, start the machine and drop the ginger through the feed tube, and we'll want to process it until it's finely minced in about 10 seconds. Just listen to your machine. You'll hear at this point, for instance, you can't hear the ginger being flung around the work bowl, and so it's finished being mixed. Then remove the metal blade, put in the medium shredding disc, that's the coarse hole shredder, and then load your carrots into place in the feed tube. And carrots are a very firm vegetable, and so since they are so firm, we'll have to use firm pressure in order to process. There. Now, whenever you shred carrots, you'll usually find a few pieces sitting on top of the shredding disc, and that is nothing to get upset about. That's routine. Have a skillet with 2 tablespoons oil that you've heated up over medium-high heat, and then put the carrots and the ginger into the skillet. Give it a good toss, and let this cook for about a minute or so while you attend to the peppers. To process, we're going to convert our processor from a shredding machine into a slicing machine. And what I'm doing is putting the thin slicing disc in place. And then all you do is to take these pepper rectangles and load them in position. I'm going to do this the long way, but if your feed tube is not as wide as mine is, then you can stand them upright. The idea is to pack them in so that when we process them, we will get thin little slivers. Okay, so here we go. Light pressure. Then we'll load up our second batch. These are the red peppers. If those of you have not tasted these red peppers, you have a real treat in store because they are wonderfully sweet. And fortunately for us, they are starting to become available now almost year-round. So lock this in position and with light pressure process. Now, the peppers are done. Give the carrot mixture a toss. And I just want to get this out of the way. Reach over for the sauce mixture, which consists of a half cup of chicken broth, a tablespoon of cornstarch, 2 tablespoons of dry sherry, and also 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. You just add the peppers to the skillet and just toss everything together for just about 1 or 2 minutes. This is absolutely beautiful. And remember, do not overcook this because peppers overcook very easily. Then add the sauce mixture. Give it a stir because, as you know, cornstarch mixtures tend to settle. And while this is heating up and coming to a boil, let's get the fish dish together. Bring my serving platter out here. And as soon as these juices have thickened, which is just about now, I'm going to put most of these vegetables. Absolutely wonderful. I think you'll be just delighted with this dish. So put most of the vegetables onto your serving platter. And then take your cooked fish fillets and arrange them on top. And then, maybe using chopsticks or a spoon, put the remaining vegetables on top of the fish fillets. So there we have it. A delicious and nutritious and low cholesterol Oriental-style fish dinner made in a matter of minutes with the help of your food processor. You can drink anything you want with this dinner. Tea would be nice, beer would be great, even a rosé wine would be wonderful. But don't use a dry white wine or even a red wine. Those would probably be too heavy and the white would probably get lost. This is Greg Patent wishing you happy cooking and delicious eating. This is a one work bowl recipe, meaning that we won't have to wash the work bowl out until the very end. And you start by proofing the yeast. Sprinkle 1½ teaspoons of active dry yeast over 3/4 of a cup of warm water, and then add a pinch of sugar to help the yeast get started. Stir the mixture up, and then you let it stand for about 10 minutes until the mixture becomes bubbly and foamy and looks like this. When the yeast is all nice and foamy, take a tablespoon of olive oil and then just stir it into this